Hi Sagittarius, welcome to your June 2019 love reading. It's Raina here. So I'm going to be doing a typical spread and this is with my Morgan Greer deck, and then I'm going to follow up with a Universe Has Your Back Oracle card. Okay, I'm going to pick an additional card. Just certain cards that I feel the need to clarify. I'll pick the Oracle card later. So the heart of the matter is the Page of Cups. And this can have different meanings depending on what your status is with your love life. I was saying with some of the other signs I've been doing that in recent months I've been separating the love readings into two different types, the singles and the relationships. And the reason is that I felt like I couldn't do justice to either group by combining it. And what I've found is that a lot of times it really doesn't change much. Whether you could be, married for 20 years and you're looking for love and you're not able to find it within that relationship. So it's a little tricky to kind of try to keep things in a certain little box. So I've decided to combine these readings once again. And the Page of Cups is a card that I'll show you. See the little fishy? I mean, that could be Pisces, a new relationship with somebody who's Pisces, or simply a water sign, in general. So Pisces, Cancer, or Scorpio. So in the beginning stages of that relationship, and actually the outcome card is a card, the moon card, is associated with Pisces, but also the moon rules Cancer. So I think of it in both of those ways. So in any case, with the Page of Cups, there can be this very pure attitude towards love. But by the same token, this could be kind of a babe in the woods. And you could be 50 years old and be a babe in the woods in a certain sense, because, I just know that this is true about certain people in life in general, is that they tend to be very gullible. And this is due to a very pure attitude. It's, the word gullible is an insult, right? But really it's coming from a place of purity. Sagittarians do tend to look at life as the glass half full. And we tend to, because I'm a Sag too, we tend to give people the benefit of the doubt. So this can lead some Sagittarians to be overly generous in their assessment of somebody's motives. In other words, believing that somebody is really on the up and up, they're trying to do the right thing, but the flesh is willing. The spirit's willing, but the flesh is weak. And making excuses for other people's bad behavior, that kind of thing. And I mean, on the surface it appears noble, but I really feel sometimes that it's wanting something that is just not available in the person that you're looking for it in. And actually it's lying to yourself. So it really isn't noble at the end of the day. It's actually destructive to you. The Page of Cups can indicate the beginning of any kind of soulful relationship where both parties have a deep connection to one another emotionally. And you might say, isn't that true of all relationships? And I'd say, no, it's not. Some relationships are not really that emotional. The people come together, they may feel physical attraction for one another. That's a whole different ball of wax. I mean, that's one's type of, that's the fire element. But that is not how everybody operates. And even the same person may react differently from one person to the next. So with the Page of Cups, there is this feeling of innocence. I mean, if I look at it in a more positive way, I could say that it's like, you know what, it's almost what came into my head, almost like never having really loved. I was thinking of that song, I've never known love like this before. And that is really what can happen. It's not just in a romance novel where you have all these relationships, and then all of a sudden when you meet the right person, it's like they all fade away. It's like they didn't even count, because you're with the person they are meant to be with. And, you know, you've heard that expression, you have to kiss a lot of frogs before you get to your prince. And so with the Page of Cups, it's like, this may be my prince. Or you could be making out with a frog and thinking it's a prince, I guess, too. If you're, lying to yourself, in other words. In the past position, we have the Page of Pentacles. It's funny, 2 pages and an ace here, and they kind of operate in a similar manner. So for some of you, it's funny because it's like the pentacles relate to the earth element. And so we're talking about Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. And that's a different type of vibe too. That's more practical. I was going to use that as an example. That some people are really looking for a partner that they can build a life with, but it's almost like building a business with somebody, where they have like this very practical outlook, and they don't have necessarily those romantic inclinations that involve, anything other than, hey, we make a good team, so let's get together. It's possible that some of you have been in a relationship, or maybe this is the person you're with now, and you're not feeling it because you realize that you're coming from a totally different place. However, I feel like that relationship isn't really a long-term relationship either. So both of, all 3 of those cards on the top level, which are really talking about what's happening for you now and what has happened for you in the past, are all like pages and the ace. And so to me, it's more somebody who is dating, whether you're recently divorced or whether you've been on the market for quite a while. That kind of like dating a lot, meeting different types of people, maybe keeping your options open and not just demanding that you just hang out with one type of person, which I actually think is a great idea, because it means that you're willing to consider somebody that may not be your quote-unquote type, the type that you typically are attracted to. And you're willing to kind of keep an open mind about that, and I think that's great. And the higher message is the Ace of Wands, and this is you know, getting the show on the road, getting everything going. The Ace of Wands is, to me, kind of like an enthusiastic new beginning. So what it's saying is, because you're a fire sign, Sag, you need to have somebody light your fire. And I'm not talking about just physical desire. I'm talking about somebody who is enthusing you. Is that a proper term? Somebody who inspires you, who you're excited to see. With the other two cards, it's rather subdued. With the Page of Cups, there may be a quiet, deep admiration for this person, and you're feeling very nurtured, or you are nurturing them. But and with the Page of Pentacles, there's a sense of groundedness, a sense of the other person being dependable, somebody you can count on, and that they're not going to just flake out on you. But the Ace of Wands is somebody exciting, that excites you. And fire needs to be fed. You know what I mean? If you think about a fire, they call it feeding the fire when they just put newspapers or logs on the fire. You can't just expect the fire to burn indefinitely. You have to feed it. And fire is very expansive, you know, and I'm talking about the element and how it likes to grow. But literal fire is expansive, and that's probably why fire signs are connected to that element, because they are expansive, especially Sagittarius. We're ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter's in our sign until December. So I think those cards on the top really indicate that as well, about this idea of having a lot of maybe people that, I was going to say suitors, which is such an old-fashioned word, but having people that are interested in meeting you and getting to know you better. And actually, recently, because of the Aries energy, you've had that fifth house really activated, that house of dating and falling in love. So this is a period of time when you're already kind of like very motivated, perhaps, to find a partner if you're single. What crosses you is the Five of Cups. This is a card of grief, of disappointment. And this is in the challenge position. It seems like I get this card a lot, which makes sense in some ways, because I think this is such a common situation, phenomenon, where you're trying to do something in life, and usually I think it's safe to say it would be relationship oriented, and you're just not ready. You're just not healed enough to do it. And it's different than when you get fired from a job. Most people, I don't think, if they get fired from a job and then they're able to get hired somewhere else, I don't think that they would have to heal from a past firing in order to work in a new job. But for some reason, in personal relationships, people get like that, where they are very much afraid of being abandoned, rejected, left, because it has already happened to them. And the paradox is that I think that a lot of these people, they possibly, either they have their own issues of being in a partnership and maybe they are ambivalent. Certainly Sag is a very independent sign. So not all Sagittarians are going to be just happy about having a relationship that is long-term, because they may feel that they don't have freedom of movement anymore. But the other thing too is that if they have been in negative relationships, they may be more likely to be possessive, be suspicious, almost like demanding guarantees that the other person isn't going to leave. But by the same token, not realizing that they're creating this self-fulfilling prophecy. So the very thing that they don't want, they're pretty much creating, which is too bad, because a lot of people, they want love in their life, but they're terrified. They're terrified based on the past. And so I don't think that it's like some major kind of like a production number that you have to really do all these things, go into therapy for 10 years or anything like that. I think it could be as simple as seeing the pattern and seeing how you tend to pick people that are not really there for you, and maybe you are reading into the relationship or making it into something that it's not, and that's what the Page of Cups represents. Or that you shy away from a long-term relationship because of disappointment from the past, but then you don't, you still want a relationship, and so you kind of feel like this sense of, how can I put it, just oppression. I did get that Eight of Swords. I'll talk about that in a second. The advice is the Two of Wands, so this can be a choice. Actually, it's interesting because I didn't talk about the Page of Cups and the Page of Pentacles as two different people, but it is possible that they are. And it's funny because it's like, should you choose the earth sign or the water sign? And then the higher message is, no, choose the fire sign. Air and water are feminine signs. Fire, did I say air and water? Earth and water. And air and fire are masculine signs. So you, Sag, do better with masculine signs. Now, yes, it is a broad brush statement, because that's not going to be true for everybody. But also with the Two of Wands, there may be other things going on in your life that are changes. Maybe with the Two of Wands, you have to decide whether or not to travel for work. And you really want to be as cooperative as possible, but you don't want to uproot your family. But the thing is that in this particular case, since we're talking about a love relationship, chances are it would be more like, even if you're going to take a job offer, you might also say, well, I'm going to leave my partner because we're not even meant for each other. So it's not just, even if it was about a job or a career change, it's not necessarily that that's the end-all be-all of it. There could be other things going on related to relationship. The outcome, I did pick an additional card, is the Eight of Swords, and this is that card of feeling trapped, feeling like you don't know what your next move should be, but it's trapped with by your thoughts, and particularly thoughts of limitation. So the things that people tell themselves about their life that may not be true, but about their ability to attract better things to themselves, what their potential is, who they can love. For instance, I'll never have a partner who is faithful to me. Somebody may think that thought. Now, they might not think it that in such a blatantly obvious way. They may have other thoughts that really, underneath the surface, are saying that. And it's up to you, if you do tend to have these moments of pessimism, to question your thoughts. Byron Katie has a system called The Work, which is a program of self-inquiry. And I'm not like somebody who follows people to the letter, but I'm always interested in their theories, their philosophies. And in her particular program, there are different things that you can ask yourself, but one of them is it true? So you ask yourself, you say something in your head, as we often do, and then you challenge that, and you say, is that true? So if you said, I'll never get a guy who doesn't cheat on me, and it's just something that flashed in your head based upon your experiences, and you say to yourself, is that true? Just on the as you're walking around, you're not like sitting down and at home, but you could be like active doing something else, but you say, is that true? You challenge your assumptions. And what you find out very quickly is that basically none of our thoughts are true, or we can't prove that they're true. So when we think something, that's okay. Don't try to control your thoughts, but don't automatically run with them and think that, okay, this is the truth about my situation. And with the upper cards, to me, it's kind of like you're just seeing what's out there, and you're really, how can I put it? You're just experimenting with life and enjoying what you have. But you, with the Eight of Swords, you may not be able to make a commitment or believe another person's commitment because you have trust issues, possibly, because you've been burned too many times before. So the question becomes, whose fault is that? If you don't believe your partner, could it be your fault that you chose somebody that is untrustworthy? Are you willing to consider that? And then I picked a clarification card. I got the Moon card. The Moon card can sometimes be a timing card for me. So in June, there is a full moon in Sagittarius, at 25 degrees of Sagittarius. And so, Sag, look to that full moon for possible illumination of some of the ways in which you hold yourself back. And maybe you're going to decide to end some of the things that you do that don't serve you. And it could connect to relationships. The other thing is that the Moon card could indicate, where you lie to yourself. It could be somebody who's a Pisces that you end up with, somebody who is a Cancer that you end up with. So anyway, that's a very interesting thing, because I really was wondering if the Ace of Wands was suggesting a fire sign in your life. So let me pick a card from The Universe Has Your Back and see what this says. Hopefully it's not going to be a repeat. I do whatever it takes to get closer to consciousness. I do think I got this for another sign, because I was pointing out that consciousness, sometimes I don't like the way things are put on certain cards. Consciousness can mean different things. The consciousness is almost like a generic word to me in the spiritual community. I know what she means. I do whatever it takes to get closer to consciousness. Conscious behavior. So, to me, conscious behavior, being conscious on the spiritual path, means that you are constantly aware that you are a spiritual being having a human experience. You don't. So, in other words, you never get caught up in the worldly drama because you're always one foot in the water. I'm thinking of the Temperance card, which is associated with Sagittarius. One foot on land, one foot in the water. The land being the earth, and this is the world, the earth. And so being in the world but not of it. Being in the world enough to function, to hold a job if you need to hold a job, to be able to do things for yourself that are of a practical nature that we all need to do and take care of in our life. And the other thing is that this is like Sagittarius is a sign of the sage, or the spiritual teacher, the wise one. And so, especially since Jupiter is in Sagittarius this year, there can be like a strong urging, maybe for some Sagittarians, towards a more spiritual kind of a process. Even if you're somebody in that frame of mind already, it may take it to the next level. And this could mean that you feel a sense of calling to be able to do something maybe similar to what I'm doing, or it could be working one-on-one with people as a healer of some sort. And that it helps you to be able to serve your purpose, but at the same time it's healing to other people. So when it says I do whatever it takes to get closer to consciousness, and we're talking about love relationships, it can be easy to lose your bearings when you're trying to find a partner, because all of that can go out the window, all of your spiritual beliefs, if you are physically attracted to somebody. That could definitely make you forget that you are a spiritual person having a human experience. And you could be very interested in that person, infatuated with them, and you forget about your spiritual walk. So, always keep that in mind as that can be the great leveler, understanding your spiritual nature whenever you're meeting somebody. And if you're really in an active period, Sag, where you're maybe reveling in your freedom, if you've come out of a long-term relationship that has broken up, you may not want to be tied down. But just remember who you really are. That's always very important. Okay, that's what I have for you, Sag. If you'd like a personal reading, the link to my website is below. I'm at rainamoonastrology.com. Have a great full moon in Sag. I know that that's going to be something I'm eagerly awaiting myself. Take care. Bye.